Hello.
Hey, I think we can pause or stop the recording and restart.
Oh, it's automatic, isn't it? Yeah.
Welcome. You made it to the afternoon session. We would love to invite you to join with your camera if you're able. We'd love to look at real life human faces if possible. It helps us be more engaged with our audience. Thank you so much, Connie. It's good to see you. Welcome, Anthony. Awesome. You guys can drop in the chat where you're coming from. I don't know what I was gonna say, where y'all coming from, like just like straight up. I guess that's the afternoon vibes. We'll get started in just a moment. If you are curious about our session, this is Activating Youth Voice and Leadership. So we hope you're in the right room. And if you're not, well, you won't hurt our feelings if you're in the wrong Zoom room. But we're glad you're here, nonetheless. So if you just joined, we're just inviting you to join with your camera if you can. We'd love to engage with real life faces and smiles. Franklin Covey Education. Okay, do you guys produce textbooks? No.
We're professional development and actually student development. So
awesome. Welcome.
Good to have you part of the discussion, Connie. Thanks for coming.
San Juan. Okay. Thank you, Kimberly. Anthony, Youth Alliance, nonprofit in Hollister. Cool. Let's see where else we got people coming in from. El Sol Science and Arts Academy, Santa Ana. Great. All right, it's 1:17. Should we get this party started? I know we stay ready, so we don't have to get ready. I'm just trying to use all the phrases, like just get it all out after lunch, apparently. I'm trying to keep our energy up so that we have just as great of a session as we did this morning. It was lovely. It's good to see you all. Welcome. We are inviting you to drop your where you're coming from in the chat, like your org, your location. We'd love to see who's in the room. So far, we've got Connie from Franklin Covey. We've got Kimberly from San Juan and Sacramento. Anthony from Youth Alliance in Hollister. Yvette in El Sol Science, Arts and Academy from Santa Ana. So go ahead and make sure to drop your name and where you're from. Your org and where you're from in the chat. And I believe, Wellington, you're going to do the welcome, sir.
Yes.
And I will spotlight you both. Sorry about that. Yes. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Julie. Hello, everyone. My name is Wellington Smith. I am the coordinator of Youth Voice for the State Superintendent of Public Instruction. And I'm very honored to be working with the ASAPconnect team. If you all wanted to make your introductions real quick.
Sure. Diego, since you're doubling next to your emoji, I'll let you go next.
This guy right here, I don't know about, but me, Diego Aaron, CBO with ASAPconnect, the director, and I'm going to lobby it over that way to Julie Sesser. And Julie Grohl, too.
Good afternoon. Julie Sesser. I'm a specialist at ASAPconnect, and I'm here part of this fabulous co-facilitation team. And we have an amazing colleague supporting us as well. And I'm going to go ahead and add her to the spotlight since we left her emoji off. She's a last minute Audible addition. So go ahead, girl, introduce yourself to the crew.
Thanks, Sesser. Julie Grohl, go by last names since there's a surplus of Julies in our little team. So just I'm loving seeing in the chat where you all are from all over the state. And yeah, great to have you here.
Yes, and I also want to shout out, we have a young adult in the space, Katora Weeks, if you want to introduce yourself as well.
Yes, I'd love to. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Hi, everyone. My name is Katura. I attend the California Military Institute in Paris, California. So not only am I representing
Uh-oh.
Oh no, she gave us a big cliffhanger on who she's representing.
If she, okay. As we talk about youth voice, that was not on purpose. But Katora is a member of the California, of the California Youth Advisory Council that represents the youth voice perspective for the state superintendent of public instruction, Tony Thurmond. So I just want to make those introductions. Definitely, we will kind of give you the flow of today. We will definitely dive into some mindfulness moments, and then we'll do, and that's kind of our connection before content. And then we'll talk about the intersections of youth development principles. We'll talk about our ecosystem when it comes to youth voice. And then we'll have a breakout session. We'll have and with that breakout session, we'll have a chance to interact with each other and talk about ways that that our intersectionalities work. And then we'll focus on creative principles that and in that conversation, creative principles that activate youth voice and leaderships within your programs. And then after that, we'll kind of have a large group debrief, and then we'll close this out. So I'm really excited for what we have coming next. And I believe I'm going to be passing it to Diego.
I think so. Yeah, Diego's going to take us into our mindful moment. And Diego, just
Let me
wanted
sprinkle a little
to.
water on myself.
Oh no, you're trying to get real mindful by pouring water on yourself. Okay. So in terms of mindful moment, maybe just give some context to you before we jump in why we do this and our connection to Micah.
Yeah, so you'll hear this a lot, connection before content. So, and even when we're talking about a specific, workshop of youth voice and leadership, we want to ground ourselves with that connection first, not immediately go into the frameworks and more so just connecting with ourselves first. We connect with ourselves, and then we are able to connect with other people. And what I would like to invite people to do, like Micah did, Micah's a G. Micah is one of the originals, if you will. So he really helped set the tone for the day. And in this session, what I would like to do is maybe have a mindful moment so we can reflect on our experience, our educational experience going through elementary, middle, and high school. And you see if you can point out, some moments of joy, of happiness, moments where you've been seen as a student in our schools or in our programs. Because a lot of times we forget what that experience was like, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So with that, similar kind of technique. I invite y'all, if you want, you can turn off your cameras right now so you can lock the visual stimulation. And if you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes or put that soft gaze on the letter B on your keyboard. And maybe just take a few deep breaths, getting in touch with your body. Just making notice how you landed in the space, the seat, the chair, or even standing. As Micah said, upright but not uptight, maybe lining up the ears over the shoulders. Just checking in your posture. And see if you can bring some gentle awareness to the breath. What I like to do is just maybe focus on the tip of the nose or the rise and fall of the belly. I'm not trying to control it or go deeper, or just noticing it. And if you're like every other human being, you're probably having the to-do list, the emails that you have to send, using this time to process what just happened or the meal. Notice it, be gentle with yourself, and just go back to the breath. That stuff that we were thinking about will still be there. Going back to the breath with some gentle awareness and kindness. And then go ahead and see if you can just release some of the tension in your body, either on the face, the shoulders, the belly. With each exhale, just noticing it and just letting it go. The tension, the stress, the anxiety. And then with each inhale, breathing in some openness, some expansiveness, some love, some compassion. And imagine you're taking a little roller coaster ride through your childhood and education, and whether at a school and a program, you're just taking a roller coaster through your elementary, middle, and high school. And see if you can just pick up some memories of joy and happiness, moments where you were seen and heard. Could be a teacher, could be a custodian, could be a classmate, could be a parent. There are no wrong answers. All right. And I'm going to play some music in a little bit. When you hear the music, that's going to be the cue to come back to the space and crack your eyes open, maybe take a look around. And when you hear the music, I'm going to invite y'all to pull out your journal, put out a notepad, and just to journal what surfaces to mind, what came to mind, and sit in this moment. And I'm going to give you about a minute in this music journal writing experience. Again, there is no right or wrong answer, just engaging into that, into yourself and connecting with oneself, okay? Boom. And I don't know, Sesser, do I do this one or I'll pass it to you or?
This is you, my friend.
All right. So notice now it's all by design. It's all by intentionality. This, even the sitting thing that we were doing, and even the journal writing. Because what we want to do is not just give you the, here's what we did, go try this strategy. It's really deeper than that. It's really deeper. It's, you can sense, you can feel when someone's presence, when you feel seen. And it's stuff that we like to use as a metaphor, is the iceberg. We only see what the top, you know, the tip of the iceberg, the 10%. Everything is really, everything of meaning, you could say, is underneath that iceberg. Now, we like to use the iceberg as a metaphor, as what you see outwardly, or the events of things. We'll talk about the programs or the events, but you really want to know is, what was the mentality? What were the mindsets? What were the mental models that caused all of this, that helped inspire all of this? Well, this is what we want to share with you all. Number one, we have a belief, like a real strong belief, that everyone has wisdom. Regardless of title, regardless of acronyms, regardless of credentials, doesn't matter. When you come to a space and you hold that belief that everyone has wisdom, it honors the space. And also too, we need everyone's wisdom, because to get the wisest results. And I always like to say that in education, we focus a lot about knowledge, content, understanding, but rarely do we talk about wisdom. What was the wisdom gained from all of this, right? And we understand when we do that, we kind of eliminate this other thing that tends to happen, is being siloed out or being isolated, because we understand that together in community, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Something magical happens, and we call that more so transformational relationships. When you connect Anna and Julie Grohl, sorry, Anna, I just saw your name there. Anna and Julie Grohl, when you connect the two, something's gonna happen. Some magic's gonna happen if they come in with this kind of mental model of the sum is greater than the whole, or the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And then also too, that what we like to hold is that in the space, just to entertain yourself, especially when we have the sister Raquel coming in and joining us, that there are no wrong answers. There are no wrong answers in this space. Okay, so this is how we play with this dojo. And, you know, we say this in our program even too, that, you know, when you're trying to teach someone math, sometimes the worst math teachers are the ones that are really good at math, because they get it so instinctually. And what we found in after school programs, sometimes the best math teachers are the ones that struggle with math, because they got the answer wrong a lot of times, and they had to go through the step by step by step. So in this case, that, you know, if you allow yourself the grace and the flexibility and the kindness to, it doesn't matter about being right or wrong, right? Right. It more so is just being open to the possibilities, and being open to the possibilities can only happen if everyone will hear others and be heard. Going in with that mindset that everyone will hear others, right? We emphasize the act of listening, but in that process, you will be heard as well. These are the mental models that we take for us, not just as an organization in the meetings, but even in the program design. Okay, and with that, I'm going to pass it over to Julie Sesser that will go into more of this kind of aha that we got between the intersection of youth development principles. Woo! And
as he
voice of
fades
leadership.
out, yes, as he fades out, we wanted to bring to your attention that we clearly identified some intersections between youth development and some of the things that we've been working with here. We come into this work with a youth development approach. What does that mean? We believe that positive youth development is not just a framework, it's a mindset, it's an approach, it's how you approach the work. We fully believe that you have to engage in connection before you can jump into content. Just like we started with a mindful moment, you might have heard the mantra, Maslow's before Bloom's. So Maslow's relates to physical, psychological need. It's that, remember, it's that pyramid where it talks about basic needs need to be met in order for a person to thrive. By that same token, we believe that that has to happen before you can address Bloom's taxonomy or the strategies related to how people learn, right? You have to meet people. Like if a student is in class and they're hungry and they haven't eaten, they're going to be thinking about their stomach, and their body's actually going to be giving them signals that they're hungry, and it's going to be hard for them to focus on the learning. And so that relates to making sure to meet people's basic needs before you try to push the learning out, right? Push the content out. And the same with engaging and building these connections with young people. And really that relationships are the cornerstone, that relationships matter. Like many of the young people we work with are seeking adult role models. They're seeking adult connections, and you could be that one caring adult in their life that makes a difference for their success and their resiliency. So we just wanted to name that up front. And then we also wanted to identify that as a bias that we're bringing in, right? We believe in that. That's kind of a mental model. That's the bias that we hold. And so most of this presentation is going to be geared towards that, so we just needed to name that up front. If you want to go to the next slide, Diego, we talk about the ecosystem that we're part of. So if you were on the main plenary sessions, you'll notice that it was hosted by the California After School Network. A lot of their team has been on there, right? We work closely with the California After School Network. ASAPconnect is one of 2 partners in the state that support the entire system of support for expanded learning, right? And so this visual graphic is kind of an ecosystem, right? So what it represents is it looks like a really super colorful onion, right? And so the outer layer of the onion, the purple, is really the CDE-EXLD, which if you break that down into English, because it's all acronym, is the California Department of Education Expanded Learning Programs, right? They're that outermost layer of this ecosystem. They're the farthest removed from students and families. Next in that blue layer is really the statewide TA providers. TA stands for technical assistance. That is basically myself, Diego, Julie Grohl, our team at ASAPconnect, and then also the California After School Network. We provide a lot of support to the regional teams and grantees across the state of California. Then if you look at the pink layer, those are the locally based regional teams across the state of California. There's 16 of them, and they are based in county offices of education. And then you have the blue layer, which is school districts and CBOs. You might be confused, CBO, Chief Business Officers? No, that's a different acronym. It's actually community-based organizations. So some of you all might have staffing partners like the Boys and Girls Club or the YMCA or the Parks and Rec or whatever other nonprofit TA provider, staffing provider like Think Together or Teaching Fellows. There's different organizations and different communities across the state. They're all different, right? And so the green is actually, we're getting closer to the heart of this onion here. The ecosystem is the programs themselves. So those are kind of what we're talking about today, the expanded learning opportunities programs. Those are the programs themselves, right? And you might also have ACES or 21st century programs. Those are the programs, that's the green. And then the yellow is actually the heart of the work. And so it's appropriate that it's at the heart of this visual and the ecosystem because it's the students themselves. And we would also propose that it's also families. Students and families are at the heart of our work and the center of our focus in our ecosystem, right? So coming in with this frame and understanding of how the system works, I think, Diego, it's important for you to make a surprise appearance again to help kind of talk through the cycle of why this image moves. It's actually frozen right now, so I'm hoping Diego's not frozen. But typically this is a moving graphic. Oh,
I'm here.
I'm not sure why that's not moving, but basically you can
I was going to
explain.
explain this. I got to pour a little water on me.
Oh, okay.
I
And he's back.
All right, so
you just compared yourself
this is
to a
a really
chia pet, just naming it. Okay, go ahead.
beautiful image, right? And if you know too, that little black triangle or triangle, if you will, that's access, access to, initiatives and or like a curriculum or a policy, making sure that it goes access to the programs to the young people, right? And then it's 2 ways you can say, right? We're trying to lift up some of the best practices from the site. And then at the state or regional level, we're trying to disperse best practices to the site. But these, like every kind of framework, it's stagnant, it's one-dimensional. The 2 things that I always to talk about the complexity of these nested ecosystems. because, Julie Sesser and I, we came from program. We worked at site. We were a site coordinator, and when we tried to explain people what we did, we work with people, we work with people that work with people that work with people that work with kids. I mean, that just didn't fly well. What are you talking about? That was the complexity. So what we wanted to add into this kind of diagram is two things. One is direction, and you'll see in this next slide, to make it more animated, you'll find out that sometimes, not all the time, sometimes the people on the outside of the, the CDE, the county office, TA, they have a vision of one way it's supposed to go. And at the site level, they could have a different vision. And they seem sometimes they're going in different directions. So we'll have you'll see the directions of the circles. And then you also notice too, just take note, is how fast the outside of the circle tends to go slower than the ones closer to the young people, right? People at the site level, they're seeing their students every day. And what we'll share with this, even with, we know these principles, it took us 10 years, y'all, 10 years to bring young people to the statewide meeting for system of support for expanded learning. Not because we didn't want to, not because we didn't think it was a good idea. We'll get into why, but the complexity of the system illustrates that. So what I mean by that, and let me make this go into slideshow mode. Boom. And just move myself a little bit to the side. See, you'll notice here that triangle is not that triangle anymore. And I'm going to date myself, y'all. It's like a horrible game of Frogger that you're trying to get to the next level, and then trying to get to the next level. Then you got to wait. You got to wait 6 months to the next FAQ gets released. Then you can go to the next level, and you got to watch out because you don't want to step on people's toes, and you just want to do what you're being told and what the guidance is, right? And then if there are some moments where everything is perfect and everything lines up, and you got to move quickly to the center, and vice versa, right? So again, we use this to do one thing that we like to is talk about the complexity of our systems, right? With the complexity being when you have different circles in the ecosystem, and not that we're not sinking in, we're just not aware of our frequency and our cadence. So for us, we use this too, just to illustrate, to manage our expectations of CDE. We can't expect CDE, in my opinion, to be a sports car, an Italian sports car, when it's like a freighter train. It's to make these turns, and it's not going to work that way. But when it comes to institutionalizing a practice or principle, yeah, let's look at that. But the real quickness and nimbleness comes more directly into the site level, because you can see there in that kind of illustration, the ones closer to the young people and their families, the revolutions around them, it comes a lot quicker. So we use this, again, as a tool, as a framework to understand the complexity. And also what we're going to share too is, as we talked about youth voice and leadership, how do we go from the outside to the in and the in to the out? How do we have that kind of accordion effect? Well, we had a situation too, where in 2019, we were actually having a meeting to design the statewide meeting for all the expanded learning ecosystem, about 70 people, and the emphasis was going to be on equity. And so how do we talk about equity, and how do we define, are we going to spend the next 6 months trying to define equity for everybody, or how are we going to go about having this conversation? And the one thing that we lifted was, when you bring young people to the space, that changes the dynamic. When you bring young people to the center of the conversation, that transformation happens. So we got people excited on that idea. Yeah, let's bring young people to this meeting. And so you can see the energy going up. And the beautiful thing happened, and Julie Sesser always laughs about this, was when Michael Funk and Julie Sesser locked horns about bringing young people to the space. And for real, I just wanted to grab popcorn and just watch that entanglement, watch that kind of just, Julie Sesser jumping up on the top turnbuckle, just smashing Michael Funk in the forehead, and then Michael Funk just doing a leg drop and just really going at it. I mean, it was awesome. It's not that we don't like conflict. Can we have this space so we can have this honest dialogue? And what the argument wasn't about whether we should bring young people or not. Julie Sesser went, if we're going to bring young people, make sure that we are not doing what? We're not using them as some sort of manipulation, not using them as some sort of decoration, or we're not tokenizing the young people. And believe me, I ran programs since the 90s. You know what I mean? Did we have kids show up with the photo op with everyone wearing the same t-shirt as some sort of decoration? Yeah. Did we have it when they had the fun, you know, the fun developer or the philanthropist come by, and then, you know, we brought the young people there? Was it a little bit tokenizing? Yeah. But at least we are aware of it, right? But then we actually started doing some stuff in our programs, right? Where, you know what, I don't have to do the site visit. Why don't the young people do the site visit? They can be the escorts in the site visit. They know the program better. Assigned but informed. Do you see what we start getting out of those kind of 3 layers? Julie Sesser made it a really adamant point, is if we're going to bring young people to the space, we got to make sure that they're prepped for it, right?
I think, you know, Diego, you and I have talked about this a lot, that we are both guilty. We admit it. Just because we're sharing this ladder doesn't mean we have made these same kind of missteps on our own journey in the past when we ran site, right? Or when we were at a program level or district level. I think that what's important to know is that when you know better, you need to do better, right? So now that you know there's strategies here, we're like, we can be more intentional about trying to have higher levels on this ladder. Like, we want to be more in the middle. Like, and it's not overnight. Like, you're not going to just be like, let's throw everything to the young people and like put them in a room and like say, let's do this. I mean, there's got to be a ramp, or like an on ramp, right? You would think about it as a new employee. You would not onboard a new employee and then tell them they have a speech to give and not give them any prompts or training or support. You'd say, I want to help you be successful. This is what we expect, right? So I think we get into this, you know, these trenches, these blind spots with young people sometimes, where we put them in positions where they're not really prepared to be the best, to show up to be successful. So the reason that Michael Funk and I had a difference of opinion, there were no blows, because I know this call is being recorded for the record. It was more a difference of opinion on approach. We had a meeting coming up and he had this great idea to bring youth. And my resistance was, we've never done that before. We have a quick turnaround. And what is the pathway to making sure the young people feel supported, prepared, and that they have the capacity to show up in their best self? I mean, we had young people that had like rented suits and clothes that, you know, they had to get new clothes. I mean, this was like a big deal for them. And they were the first groups, the Sac City 6 is what we called them. They were the first 6 students to show up live in front of a group of 75 educators in person, educational leaders across the state, including Michael Funk, including, I think, his boss, who's like the deputy superintendent. I mean, there was people in this space that would be even intimidating for an adult educator in this field. And so we wanted to make sure that they got to show up as the best version of themselves, that they felt confident, ready, and prepared, right? And so that was the distinction, is if we just brought a young person to the space and had them sit up front and then Diego moderated and asked them questions and they weren't prepared, that would be a disservice, because we wouldn't do that to an adult. So we have to think about, what intentionality do we want to have when we create spaces for young people to show up and have opportunities? And I want to just say, like, if you're feeling guilty right now, that's not our intent. We just want you to be self-aware that we have all made these missteps, right? Good intentions. Nobody has bad intentions. Nobody wants to put young people in a space where they can fail. But we have to be more intentional about how we're inviting young people to be part, to engage in with youth voice. Like, and I will say that as you get higher up on the ladder, there's going to be for sure more bureaucracy and barriers, right? More obstacles. And so I think what's important to remember is that you, in your role, can serve as an obstacle remover. You can help navigate some of the barriers and obstacles. May not be overnight, but it could influence district level change over time. So all of these rungs are very, very powerful. Diego has taken the opportunity to create this infographic for you. And Diego, I know you just dropped that in the chat. Will you just share with them?
Yeah, so this, just to give people like a little bit more like goodies, if you will. There's 3 links in this PDF interactive. First is Roger Hart's ladder of youth participation, which has more details about the 8 rungs of the ladder. And it was done in the 90s, y'all, mid-90s. And it came out of child development. You know, it's a really good tool, especially when we're talking about youth voice and leadership, an authentic way. But also below that is stepping back from the ladder. Roger Hart revisits the ladder in 2011, which is phenomenal. Like everything that we were kind of criticizing it for, he actually notes, people get so addicted to like kind of this linear thinking. Okay, what's level 3? What's level 4? What do we do? It's not like so linear in that sense. Is like what Julie says, being more aware with that. And also too, there is some biases in the pedagogy and the kind of child development that it was kind of nested in. And the last one is more of just like plain speak, just a ladder in terms of youth voice that you can see and use that. Again, we like to use it with our staff. We would like to use it with our students. So we have a similar language. And in that, when we had that kind of exchange and we had the convening, it was magical. It was, to me, it was everything that we've been trying to dream for the past 10 years. It wasn't that the young people were not or were not ready. As adults, did we have our stuff together?
Were we ready to hold the space?
To host the young people? Did we figure out all the inequities, i.e., are they getting paid for this? Are they getting a stipend for this? Because all of us are getting paid to come to this meeting. It's part of our job description.
That's right.
If we had a trainer come in here, we would have to do a purchase order or something, right? So are we going to give them a stipend? Have we figured out their transportation, how they're going to get, have we talked to their counselor, the principal, or the teachers to see how we can get them out of school and class? Have we talked to their parents? Oh, by the way, have we checked in to see if they have access to technology for webcam? All these things that we had to figure out, because after that first meeting of the Sac City 6, what did Michael say? We need to have young people at all our meetings. Like, cool, but I'm nervous now because it takes a lot more effort, a lot more resources to make that, make it achievable. And what that led into, I'll pass it over to Julie Sesser.
Yeah, so that was really the inception and the concept that really was a kernel. It wasn't really fully fleshed out and then became BOLD. BOLD is building our leaders and dreamers. Of course, the young people came up with that name. It's cool. So you automatically know we didn't, because I know that Wellington always gets offended when I say that we're not cool. But as soon as we as adults think something is cool, it's actually uncool. Like, we catch the wave. Like when adults jumped on Facebook, all the young people were migrating out. They were on to the next, because as soon as we got there, they're like, nah, it's not cool anymore. So the Building Our Leaders and Dreamers was created for young people. I mean, by young people, for young people, like FUBU. There's a FUBU reference for the 90s folks in the building. Anyway, but Wes and Almentina are our college ambassadors. They are our college mentors. They are currently at Stanford and Berkeley themselves. So they are actually modeling like what it's like to be in college, and they're able to tell them a little bit about the college experience along the way, which has been a really cool connection. They meet with them once to twice a month over the course of the 9-month cohort. Those two college ambassadors are also supported by our team, and they meet with us pretty frequently, twice a month for design team meetings. So we co-design the convenings for the student cohort. We right now convene virtually. It is across the state. So we have students from all over California that have never met before, that are from after school programs that have been nominated in California. They're juniors and seniors in high school. And they're an amazing group of people. They pick a project focus, they develop teams, and the topics vary from year to year based on the student interests, what they're really passionate about. I will tell you that we are blown away by what they choose to talk about. Last week, we had a student team present about improving the lives and working conditions of migrant farmers in California. We're really passionate about that. And so we recruited a group of migrant education team staff across the state of California to be an adult audience of listeners for them. So they got to present to them. We had another group talk about mitigating crime through the use of lights and this blued technology. So they did the research, they interviewed students and families, and now they're going to be presenting to a probation officer, some other people connected to student wellness, and other things across the state that might have other resources and connections for them. The reason that this is important and the reason that this works, we focus on what the students want and need. We give them opportunities to engage in things that they're interested in and learn more about the areas where they don't know much. Like mindfulness. They get to learn about their own strengths, their unique talents and strengths. They get to learn how to facilitate meetings. They get to learn about public speaking. They get to learn about working with people that are from diverse backgrounds, because their community, sometimes these students have never even been outside of their own neighboring community or county. You would be surprised. They get a chance to work with technology in a different way. So this is all just opportunity that we give. Oh, also, they get a stipend. They get a $600 stipend that we pay them through a partnership with the California Department of Education. And they get that stipend annually. I will tell you, they put in way more hours than they're compensated for. Think about like a teacher stipend, like a club activity where they have adjunct duty and they're given a stipend for that. It's the same kind of equivalent. We would never think to ask a teacher to work without giving them a stipend. So we treat that the same way. These students are doing extra work outside of their school day. It is a commitment for 9 months, and we totally respect them for that and want to compensate them with a small token to honor that. Julie Grohl is my colleague that works closely on this project with me. And Diego, I want to just add you in, Julie Grohl, if there's anything that I missed, maybe just to add to the conversation about BOLD.
Yeah, I think a key thing, I dropped the page from our website on there, just in case you might be inspired by the background and the kind of the vision behind that program. And Sesser did a great job of explaining it. One thing that I think is really cool to point out, not only did our advisors, our 2 college students who were part of the Sac City 6 that we brought to that SSEL meeting that blew everyone's minds, they are now those mentors to these students for the past 2 years. And not only did they come up with this cool name with Wellington, you worked with them, so, but super cool name, nice. They also came up with the idea to have them work in teams and decide on a community impact project. That
That's
wasn't
right.
our idea.
That's right. That's right. I forgot that.
Came from those young people. So, and it's such an important element to this program. It wasn't even our idea.
And you
So
really
there's
see
the example right
you really
there.
see their passion come to life. And that's when we learn the most about them, actually. Sharing their stories, like the migrant farm workers story team, sharing their stories about how their own families have been impacted by the conditions related to migrant farming, and their families like working long hours and harsh conditions, and just personal stories and connections to the team projects have been really powerful. We had a team present on garbage pollution. And first they wanted to do all pollution, and we told them to try to focus and hone it in because it was a big topic. And we challenged them to kind of make it more concrete, more streamlined. They presented to the city of Avenal and talked about how close the landfill was to certain communities. They talk about environmental racism. If you haven't heard that term, you might want to check it out. I had to look it up myself. I had not heard that word, heard that term. And I was surprised to learn about how much research and passion they have, how much research they've done and how much passion they have for this. And it really came to life. And I think that, Grohl, if you don't have anything to add, I think this is a great little segue to really bring Mr. Smith and Katora into the space to talk about how BOLD really was the beginning and really led to a new opportunity. And we will remove our spotlights and pass the mic to y'all.
Well, thank you so much, Julie and Julie. Really appreciate, and I want to give a special thank you to the ASAPconnect team. I in my mind, every time I work with you all, I make sure it's a sobering reminder to make sure I still hone into my site coordinator mind, my program manager mind, and anything that I do with young people, and just with this work and this work plan. So I wanted to real quick talk about the initiative that I work on with CALIAC. It's the California Youth Advisory Council. This Youth Advisory Council services the youth voice component to the State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tony Thurman. What's wonderful about this is he is a big proponent of youth voice. That's where this advisory council came to fruition. He wanted to have authentic youth voice and equitable youth voice. So with what we put together, even to the point of our onboarding process, everything that we did was having equity in mind. And we are one of the most diverse youth advisory councils in the state of California. So our goal is to continue to make sure we have proper representation of our youth that represent California's youth across the state. Here, I want to again bring back and talk to Katora, and she may or may not want me to say this, but I'm just so proud of her. Katora will be going to Harvard next fall, and I am, yes, clap for that. It's an amazing opportunity for her, but she is one of the hardest working young people I've ever met, and she's always a light to our meetings. I just want to give you your flowers, Katora, because you are awesome. So is it okay, Katora? So as we talk about, and I love the infographic of the ladder, we talk about moving past tokenism, we talk about moving past decoration and manipulation. I want to hear Katora's voice. I want to know what she thinks about just different components of education and how she's going to, in actually her perspective. You know, we're not asking her to solve the world today, but just want to hear her perspective, which is a wonderful perspective. So Katora, hi.
Hi, Mr. Smith. Can everyone hear me well this time?
You're solid.
Thank
you. I wrote down a couple questions I wanted to ask you. One, what recommendations do you have for educators when it comes to education reform? So are there any just recommendations in your mind that you're just like, man, this is what we need to be working on going into this next year?
Well, I think conversations and spaces like these are incredibly important for educators and people who are working in education or with youth, period. As I'm sitting here and listening to you guys speak, and you guys are speaking about youth and about the needs of youth, it's actually very reflective of our needs. And I do really think that those infographics and the things that you're sharing are incredibly beneficial. But I think my biggest recommendation is for educators to seek opportunities to learn and gather input from the actual voices of youth. I feel like youth are very, young people in general, young people are very intelligent, young people are very transformational, young people are very creative, and our voices and our experiences, although we're very young, are very real. And I think when educators understand that youth perspective is a unique and important perspective and factor that perspective and that input into their work and into their organizations, it's incredibly transformational. So my biggest recommendation would be to continue seeking opportunities to listen to youth.
So let me ask you this. How can we, as educators, how can youth voice be more prominent? And I know you kind of touched on that, but can you go a little bit more about how youth voice can be more prominent in our education system?
Absolutely. And I think we touched over it while we were discussing BOLD, that organization, while we discussed CaliYAC. Student councils and student voices or cohorts of students that are brought together, they're great. However, I know that only a select number of individuals can have access to those. This is my first time hearing about BOLD, and that's amazing work. And I know a lot of my friends and the people around me have no clue what CaliYAC is. So I think educators and people in general should make sure that every student has access to these councils or these spaces where they can input their voices. Because I know for me to find a lot of the councils and the organizations that I'm a part of, I had to deep dive into Google. I was doing a lot of searching and Googling and reading, and I know that it shouldn't be that difficult in order for me to find a place to explain my feelings and my thoughts on education, or for me to have input, or for me to find my role in an organization. So I think that organizations that are youth-centered need to do more and work harder to make sure that they're creating or giving access to all students. And I mean, communicating with superintendents or maybe visiting schools or just anything that they can do to make sure that even any student across California will maybe know that here's where I can input my voice. But I think creating access is just generating popularity and talking to kids.
When I think about popularity, I think about what is cool, and I want to ask how. And I joke around with my colleagues about the fact that, you know, I'm not cool anymore, but you all are cool. So how can we as educators and adults, older adults, be cool, and when it comes to engagement and marketing youth voice?
That's a great question, and that's a really hard question because, and I'm just gonna be very blunt, I don't think you can. I don't think there's any way that adults can be cool or try and be hip to the trends and the things that students like. I think just being vocal, being present, and being understandable. I just creating media and making sure that all outreach is digestible for young people. Like, as long as you make something and let them know that they understand it and really explain to them what it is, I don't really think you have to be cool. I think that adults, when focusing so much on being cool and being trendy or catching the eye of students, that can be good to an extent. But I think really we don't even have the opportunity, or don't even have access, let alone want to see something, a reputable organization on TikTok. You know what I mean? Like, it's it's important to want to be hip, but at the same time, I really think it's better to stay focused on being digestible and creating access.
Well, if that was an authentic youth voice, I don't know what was. I appreciate it. No, that's what I know, at least I needed to hear. So that's great. And Couture is part of 12 young people that are, you know, is dynamic and wondering. But I know when we put together this team, when we put together these members of the California of California Youth Advisory Council, the big part of it was how can we remain different, right? That was a push for us, and for me it was about being like jazz, right? What is jazz? What is and that is improvisation. And I think in that improvisation, which I threw a curveball question to Couture, she gave me her authentic answer, and that's jazz. Right, that's jazz. So if we can go to the slide, there's a video that I want to show. It's a quick 3-minute video that I wanted to show. It's from the TV show Winning Time on HBO. Now, again, don't recommend watching this with young people, but this scene is one of just because it was about the rise of Jerry Buss and the Lakers in the early '80s. I would say that, this part of the show directly describes what we at the Youth Advisory Council are working to accomplish. So if we can go ahead and click that.
Right, I'm gonna hand the keys over to Jack here. I want y'all to show him the same respect y'all showed me. Okay, take it away. Paul? This is from last season. Your base set. There's Nixon. Walks the ball up. Calls it. Dantley with a screen. Looks in the corner. Fixes man. Sinks a jumper.
Smooth as silk, baby. Hey.
20 seconds. Next. This was the play you ran most frequently. Kareem in the post. Receives the pass. 6 to 8 dribbles. Skyhook. 23 seconds. And then there's this from the same game. "19 seconds. That's 3 plays, 2 conversions, 62 seconds of game time for 4 points a minute, which at a roughly 66% conversion rate, nets close to 100 points a game. in line with the league average, because this is how everybody in the league plays basketball. Methodical, predictable, and slow. But a few times every game, this happens. 5 seconds, 3 sets of hands, 1 easy basket. So why do you guys only do this 6 or 7 times a contest?
Because it ain't a choice. They miss, we get the rebound, maybe a steal, we get out ahead and we go for it. Ain't no way we can do that all the time.
Why not?
Break ain't something we can count on.
Not when you're only running off of other teams' mistakes, misses, and steals. That's why from now on, we won't wait for anyone to give us breaks. We'll make our own. Constant motion offense. Don't stagnate in positions. Dart, pass, keep our opponents chasing us.
People are appropriating street ball.
What's that, Kareem?
I said, sounds like street ball. Chaos.
It is. So, here's the thing. A classical offense is a lot like classical music. Coaches put a bunch of notes in place, X's and O's, and all the players are supposed to do is hit their cues. It makes a pretty melody, but it's the same song every time, and everybody in the building knows exactly where it's going. So how does an offense go from classical to jazz? You put the music in the player's hands. The point guard is your melody. He sets the tempo. He keeps the pace up. Your wings, they harmonize. Your big man on the trail, he's your bass. Instead of chaining them to spots, you keep them moving, improvise, so they can flow, like flocks of birds and butterflies. Because what seems or sounds like chaos is actually the symphony of Mother Nature. Everything unpredictable has underlying patterns. And when those patterns become reflex, individuals become an unstoppable force. Or that's the theory, anyway. Until now, nobody's ever been dumb enough to try it.
So I thank you for sharing that. And what I love about that is when we're a lot of times we call young people together when there's something wrong, right? We call young people together when, it's like, no, we're not going to just bank off our offense off other people's misses. We're actually going to push forward because we're in control. And that's the kind of that jazz is what we look to amplify at the state level for the state superintendent and the rest of the Caliac group. So I just wanted to share that piece, and I think I will be turning it over to Julie Sesser.
Yes, so you've gotten to hear a little bit about Bold, a little bit about Caliac, and now I do want to just acknowledge Marlene, your comment in the chat. We also have another leadership initiative called the School of Leadership and Facilitation, and that was the original project that we modeled after Stanford's Instructional Leadership Core. And so the ILC model was something that we met with the Bechtel Foundation and talked with them about that model. And we actually modeled it after that model. And then we spread that to the Bold as well. That's kind of influenced our Bold model as well, the same kind of similar idea. And so thank you, Marlene, for the groundwork that you've done. It's said in the chat that you were part of that project. So thank you so much, Marlene, for lifting that. And Julie Grohl, did you want to add something?
I did. I just wanted to say, yeah, it was originally funded by Bechtel, so successful and so respected based on that now it's funded by CDE. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, so it's more of a sustainable project now, funded year to year. So that's great news for us, and continuing this leadership effort with both middle management, site coordinator level leadership across California that are nominated, and that's a leadership cohort that focuses on facilitation and focuses on coaching, and then leading focused conversations, and then also the Bold youth cohort. So I know that we're focusing on Bold today, but I just wanted to name that because Marlene, you mentioned that in the chat. So yes, shout out to you and the hard work you did to pioneer this work with Stanford and their original project. So thank you for your work too. So now what we're going to do is we're going to have the opportunity to meet up in a breakthrough group. We don't call them breakout groups because they're a place where you can come together with your colleague and have a breakthrough moment. It's a chance for you to lift. It's a chance for you to lift that and to lift any thoughts that are coming together. You might have aha moments, or you might have moments. Either way, this is an opportunity for you to think of the creative and practical strategies or ways that you could activate youth voice in your own programs. You've heard from us. We've given you some examples. We shared the ladder with you in terms of what rung you want to be on, what your organization is operating on right now, or maybe it's project to project. Maybe it varies, but what are you walking away with? We're wanting you to come together with your colleagues. It'll be groups of 3, I believe, Julie Grohl. She's getting the rooms ready right now. You'll have 12 minutes. And we also have a handy dandy Jamboard for you. Why are we making you do a Jamboard? Not for just no reason. We want you to have an opportunity to create Post-its on this board. The link is here. And Diego, if you could pop that open real quick, I just want to show them. If you've never used a Jamboard, which I feel like is hard to believe after living 2 years virtually in a pandemic, but I don't want to make assumptions. The Jamboard, on the left-hand side, there's a panel where if you hover over it, a little square, it's a Post-it note, and you can add your Post-it to any frame. Want you to pay attention to your breakout room number. So if you're in breakout room 1, it'll tell you on the top of your screen once you're in that room. You're going to go to this frame that has a 1 in the corner, and you're going to add your Post-its. And isn't he so great? Julie is awesome. What a great guy. He could be talking about the other Julie, though. So anyway, the point is, if you're going to add your creative and practical ways that your group is discussing, any insights that you might have, add that to the Jamboard, and then you guys will all have this link. So you can download it, make a copy, and take these ideas back, or even make a copy of this and recreate this kind of strategy with your staff at your own district to have kind of more conversations about activating youth voice in your own organizations. Any questions? I talk pretty fast. I don't know if you all saw the Micro Machines guy in the early 90s that used to talk on the commercials about the little cars. Yeah, I'm a speedy talker, so I want to just check in, make sure. Give me a thumbs up, even a real thumb or an emoji thumb if you're good to go. I'm seeing thumbs. Hopefully the rest of the people that are not on camera are still got it. Okay, cool. Thank you. All right, so the only thing I'll ask you is, we had one last session where nobody talked to this person. They had 3 people in a group and the other people left their cameras off and didn't talk. So we're going to put you in a room, so hopefully you can talk with your colleagues and interact and do this activity. If for some reason you can't come back to the main room, so that we can make sure everybody's able to connect with one another during that time. I understand life happens. All right, so we're going to move you into, make sure you click on the Jamboard and open the doc, and then then when you get in your room, you can talk about your ideas and populate them on the Jamboard. All right, we'll see you in 12.
All right, I'm going to put you in your room. And I know as we're heading into these breakthrough groups, Katara, I know you need to leave us. We just want to say thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Katara,
for joining the conversation. It was an honor to have you here, and congratulations again,
Harvard,
on what's up next for you. So thank you so much. Great to meet you,
Katara.
All right, here you go into your rooms, and the Jamboard link is in the chat.
We'll see you when you return. I think we should pause the recording. I'm back, everyone. Getting a little punchy in the afternoon. That's what happens. And after the, it's about to be after school time for us here. We're getting ready for start program. So how was that? Anyone want to share how that was to be with your colleagues and share practices, creative strategies? You can share in the chat.
I don't know, Julie, Sesser. I saw some eyebrows raised up, so I don't know if that was...
I know. Anthony, I feel like he was about ready to jump on the mic. It's like double dutch. He's like, are you going to go? Am I going to go? Are we going to go? Go ahead, Anthony. I felt it.
I just want to say in our group, we had a good conversation. I feel like I ate up all the time, though. Kimberly was doing a great job facilitating and kind of getting to know the group, but I did a lot of talking, so I feel bad. So I not only want to apologize, but I hope that at least the little bit of discussion we had was meaningful.
Well, what's one thing that stuck out from you, Anthony, from your conversation?
Well, for me, I think it was just the more so of wanting to engage throughout the team. Like again, I did a lot of the speaking because I think I just was center stage and jumped in first. But you know, with Kim and I believe Maria was also in our group. It was, you know, I could see that they were engaged and you know, taking notes and kind of listening and hearing and wanting to hear more, asking questions, you know, and just kind of getting a feel of how. And I know if we had a little more time, it would have continued that same way. But definitely just wanting to kind of to be invested and get involved in ideas and things that are going on in different parts of the state, different areas, different organizations, different districts, right? So I would say the engagement was definitely there. I just ate up a lot of the time. Again, I'm sorry.
Well, thank you for owning that. Kimberly, we're going to give you back some space since Anthony said he hogged the mic. That's okay. We'll share it. I'll have equity pause here and give you some time on the mic. Kimberly, take it away.
No, it was great. I was definitely inviting it. So, you know, I've been doing this for about 20 years now. So since, you know, right when I got out of college, and I've been in it ever since. So even the few minutes we got to collaborate, I was able to make notes, and you know, you get nuggets, and that's great. And that's kind of what I was looking for, because once you've been in it for so long, you kind of feel like, okay, I need some new resources, you know, things like that. And so, and Maria was just starting to dive into what she's doing out at her program as a site coordinator, you know, so yeah, I think just a little more time would have been great for our group, but it was great to hear and collaborate the time that we did have. So.
Thank you, Kimberly and Anthony. Maria, do you have anything to add to the conversation since you were part of that group? We want to just make sure your voice is lifted as well, Maria.
No, I think we, you know, I agree with them. We needed a little bit more time. But I think we had like a lot of like similarities to what we were doing with youth voice. So really nice.
Anything, Maria, that you heard that you hadn't done that you want to try?
You know, Anthony, he mentioned Kids to Pro, so I haven't heard of that. So you know, maybe he could give me more information. I'll share my contact information.
Sure. Thank you, Maria. Anthony, can you just share like the postcard version, not the telenovela version of what you shared?
Yeah, we were just kind of getting into, right, what we have seen that the kids want and the interests and some of the needs. So as we're looking into our summer programming and with the LOP funding needing to extend the day to a 9-hour day, we're talking about different vendors that we're looking into to bring on board. I've never worked with Kids to Pro, but we are actually bringing them on and contracting with them to provide some STEAM-based activities for our students at the elementary and middle school level. So they're going to be coming on and doing some graphic design, doing some coding, and we're excited to see it. It looks really fun and engaging and really tailored towards what the kids are interested in now, right? The specific gaming or just, you know, with all the different things going on that kids enjoy. They're really focused on the now rather than, you know, if for those of us that have been in this for a while, could kind of go and fall back on the old things that we know work really well.
Don't hate on Legos, Anthony. Legos are like
no, I definitely don't.
I'm just giving you a hard time, man. I'm just giving you a hard time.
But yeah, that was pretty much.
He goes, you know, some of the old things don't work. I go, I hear where you're going with that. I heard that path, Anthony. No, I'm just giving you a hard time. Anthony, where are you based out of? What part of California?
I am from Youth Alliance, and we are based in Hollister, but I work in multiple cities. So Hollister, San Juan Bautista, Gilroy, and Morgan Hill. So we're just south of San Jose.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing. Just to give you context of the partner that you're trying to work with, some people on this call might be from all over the state. And so we also know that some of these resources might be regional. So just be mindful of that too, naming that. Anybody else want to share? Connie, I saw you jump on the mic.
Oh, yeah, I don't know if that was on purpose, but I'll just share quickly in our breakout. I think one of the things that came out was the desire to kind of find some framework to build the capacities of the adults that are working with the students. Someone shared with us that they have a lot of young, green adults that are coming into work, and you know, what kind of framework is there out there to support them in being prepared to work with youth. And so I think that's might be a question that a lot of people have. And there definitely are offerings out there. I shared a little bit about what we do at Franklin Covey Education. We do offer something along those lines. In fact, the word framework, he nailed it. We're a framework for building social emotional learning and leadership capacities. And so we also have a lot of programs for the summer and before and after school. If anyone's interested in that, an SEL component, that's a ready to go plug and play. So
great, thank you, Connie. Also want to lift that I know that 4-H and the Cooperative Extension have centers across the state too. And they also have a curriculum called Ages. They used to have a curriculum called Ages and Stages, which teach people how to address activities up or down based on the stage of development, which is kind of a cool thing. It's kind of a gap between early childhood education does a lot more focus and has a lot more requirements around childhood development. And that's always one thing that Diego and I go back and forth about, that there's a gap between early learning and after school or expanded learning, that we have that gap. We don't require our people to have, our staff to have that foundational knowledge about child development. And it really, that is kind of a big foundational piece that if people get that, they can understand the learning and the processes that it takes to support students at different ages. So that's always something we're talking about, having a little bit of a soapbox about. But there's definitely also, Connie mentioned her resource, the 4-H Cooperative Extension. I know there's other, like partnering with your early learning program and early learning division to talk about child development. There might be somebody that already is in your district too that has a specialty where you could trade time with them if you help them recruit staff or split staff. There's partners in your own district as well, in your counties as well. So just want to lift all the kinds of, it's not a laundry list, it's not an exhaustive list, but just to maybe have some out of the box thinking of the resources in your own backyard. Anybody else want to share?
Sesser, what really stuck to me was there's this proverb that we share a lot, right? And it says, when the young are not initiated into the village, they will burn it just to feel its warmth. And what I'm hearing, like, whether it's the Youth Advisory Council, whether it's BOLD, whether it's whatever initiative is, this is our effort to initiate the young people into our community. This is our effort to make them, and this is our rites of passage into like civics or democracy or being involved in civic participation, right? You look at the youth ladder of participation. Right? This is for real. This is our effort to initiate. So think of that. Think about that. What are you initiating them to? Every other program that looks, like a brochure, or an experience, a life-changing experience. So it's cool to do all this stuff and, get the accolades. But to me, it was awesome seeing Angelo practicing his pitch in his garage, but then he went to go change into a sport coat for his pitch. You know what I'm saying? Like, he took it serious. He was, even the situation, the circumstance might not have been optimal, the Wi-Fi, but he took that challenge to be initiated into our village seriously, right? So the more we do this, and I see this in some of the brainstorming here, because there's a lot about student council, student teams, student panels. And when I'm really harping on this because what Sesser doesn't say, how did we prep the young people for the panel for the Sac City 6 for that big statewide meeting? We prepped them they came up with the questions. We didn't give them the answers. We came up collectively to come up, what questions should we ask? And then you're going to have to we'll focus on how you're going to respond to this, right? We didn't give them the answer, but we did prep them with what kind of questions we're going to ask, right? We did spend some time, like that PD opportunity, to focus on their strength using the Gallup Strength Finders. So when they opened up, they introduced themselves. My name is Diego Arancibia. My top 5 are boom, 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 boom. And the ecosystem that they were presenting at, they were familiar with that language. So they were already like, you're one of us, you're part of us, welcome. That transformation, by the end of that state meeting, a lot of people became aunties in that group. A lot of people became uncles to the Sac City 6, because this is what happens when you put the human center, you put the heart into the bureaucracy. You don't just let the bureaucracy run, but when you really have that kind of human centered, and again, goes back to having the young people at the center of the conversation, that's when the transformation really happens. So the question was practical and creative. The practical is already there. Now the creative is putting that little spin on it. The creative is connecting with Anthony and maybe someone from Southern California, right? To see what opportunities are to exchange and whatnot. So again, thank you for like the brainstorming, and thank you again for the people doing the work, because this is our effort to really save our village.
So we just want to make sure, we have just a few minutes left, but we want to make sure if anyone else wants to lift their voice, maybe you have a question for one of the presenters, or you just have a comment to add before we close out our time together. Just to make sure to hold the space for y'all.
How about Raquel? Can we hear from Raquel? Putting you on the spot, Raquel.
Why you have put me on the spot, Diego?
You know, because you ran program too, girl. So it's nothing compared to having some middle school kids grill you about a cold sore. So,
Oh, I've definitely been grilled by some middle schoolers. Let me tell you right now, okay? And the one thing that I can say is, and I did speak with, someone in my room, and one thing that our presenter spoke about was, you can't be cool. There's a certain point where I learned, adults just can't be cool. There's just no having it, You can be, the closest thing you can get to being cool is being authentic. And that is the one thing that at every site I've worked at, with every age, whether it was my toddlers, whether it was my 5th and 6th graders, or my 7th and 8th graders that I have interacted with, the biggest thing is authenticity. And sticking to your word, and you're saying you're going to do something, you do it, and not bending to their will. And it's so funny because I used to have administrators telling me, oh, you need this discipline and you need this structure. And I'm like, when I was a teenager, I was like, what are you talking about? I don't want this. But once I started actually working with kids and seeing that once they got that structure and that authenticity, and someone who wasn't going to just bend to them because, oh, maybe it'll make them be easier on me while I'm teaching them, but you stuck to your beliefs and your values and your rules, the respect that the children give you, and the you being honest to yourself showed them to be honest to their self, and they opened up and they found their voice by seeing you and following in your footsteps, in your lead. And that's definitely be the biggest thing that I could say, is that just to bring students' voices and to help them find their voice is to show them how you keep yours.
See, we knew, Raquel. It was meant to be, girl.
yes, yes, yes. And thank you again. I got to say, Marlene, I think we might have met at the Bechtel
Marlene,
office.
I know, I'm trying to remember. Pre-pandemic.
Yes. I was a lot taller before the pandemic. Anyway.
You're blaming the pandemic now on your height? What is happening here? Marlene, I don't know if we did meet you at the Bechtel office. Maybe we did, but we appreciate the connection and the shout out. And
it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing.
Such a small world. Well, 2:45, folks. We hope that this was an enjoyable session for you. They got some takeaways, even just a few gems, right? You never know what you're going to get out of a session, but we hope that you met your needs in some small way. We love spending time with you, and we hope that you get to go out and do your work with young people and inspire others, because we appreciate all the work that you're doing out there on the ground. So thank you for all you do, and take care. Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Raquel.
Thanks, all.
Bye-bye. Okay. I see too.